100 k's, 50 k's of a nuclear power plant, if you said to every household you'll get free electricity for the 80-year life of that nuclear power plant, I think people would be putting up their hands to move near a nuclear power plant.
Oh, that's exactly right. But not only that, look at the opportunities to build new areas with new housing, with new jobs, with highly paid jobs, highly skilled jobs, new industries. And those types of incentives will certainly add to the incentive for people to move there. Look, I think this is blue sky thinking. It's a great policy from the coalition, and the potential to build regional Australia in particular with new city centres and all things that go with them, hospitals and schools and all the rest, will be a great outcome for the country.
James, I made the point at the top of the show when Tony Abbott was Prime Minister, he was offered private flight upgrades. He knocked them all back. He didn't think it was a good look that he would take an upgrade on a private flight, pay for it himself, he says, sit where you pay for. But not so the Prime Minister. Not only does he take the upgrades for private trips, but he picks up the phone and calls the biggest stakeholder in his portfolio and either begs for them or demands them. Now, this would be corruption if it was a private company. If this was happening in a boardroom, this would be corruption. What's going to happen with this when the Parliament returns?
Oh, this stinks. Most of us are just happy for our Qantas flight to take off on time and land on time. But we've got this Prime Minister who thinks it's perfectly normal, while he is the Transport Minister or the shadow Transport Minister, to make these phone calls. You can be guaranteed that the opposition are going to target the government over this in the coming week. We've also got estimates next week, so I'm pretty sure that some questions are going to be asked there in relation to this very cosy, and I'm being polite, relationship between the Prime Minister and Qantas, because it does lead to perceptions of badness where someone is doing this. What was Qantas wanted in? What did Qantas want in return for this? That's the question.
Yes, we're legally dancing around it here because we're on television, but of course when you're in the Parliament, when you're in estimates, you've got a bit freer hand to call it what it is. Hey, poor old Broken Hill, Keith Pitt, that is what is ahead of the rest of the country if we keep going down this crazy renewable path without the proper firming backup power, isn't it?
Oh, Peter, can you imagine what it'd be like 10 days without electricity? No hot water, no lights, no cooking, absolutely nothing in terms of security, no communications, no health systems, no medical. And it's worse than that. They look out the window and see giant solar and wind factories that are at Broken Hill and they've still got no power, and they've got giant batteries and they've still got no power, and they're being filled up by diesel generators. And then thieves steal the generator from the local pharmacy and they lose all of their refrigerated stock, things like insulin, I would imagine. This is what the future looks like under a Bowen and Albanese plan. It is a disaster. It should never happen, and it's got to be stopped.
James, a lot of speculation about election timing. In February next year, they've got to put out those 2035 emissions reduction targets. They'll go after agriculture for the first time in a big way. They'll go after transport. They have to do them unless they're in caretaker mode. They've got a March budget, deficits as far as the eye can see. They've just ramped up by a third the spending of government advertising. I reckon they're going to go early. I reckon they're going to call it Australia Day, early February for a March election. What do you think?
Oh, I'd love them to call an election today for early December to get rid of this terrible Labor government. But I actually think you're on the money, because when you look at the money that's being spent on government advertising, it's a lesson out of Queensland. What did Labor try to do here? They tried to buy the election. They did so much TV advertising, even had a stand at the Ekka with the Labor Party's central campaign message that was funded by the taxpayer. If you're a betting person, I would start to look at dates in March.
Got to go. I think you're spot on. Gents, thank you again. Well done on the weekend. That's it for me. See you tomorrow.